Why does your button look perfect but refuse to work? In this video, we will fix 10 real JavaScript DOM and event listener mistakes that break beginner projects. You will see the bad code, why it fails, and the exact fix for each bug. We will start with two selection mistakes that make visible interface elements appear to be missing. These bugs are simple, but they can stop an entire feature before the user clicks anything. This happens in real projects when a script runs before the page markup is ready. We query the Save button and immediately try to attach its click listener. Now we run the script, and the terminal shows that the selected value is null. Let's break down the failure. Query selector does not wait for an element to appear, it returns null when there is no match at that moment. The next line treats null like a button, so JavaScript throws before the listener can be registered. Now let's fix it by creating the button before we select it. Once the button exists, addEventListener receives a real element and can attach the callback. We run the corrected script and confirm that setup succeeds. Now we are showing the best default for browser scripts. Use defer on external JavaScript files. It lets the browser parse the HTML first, then runs your setup code in order. Use DOM content loaded when initialization must explicitly wait for parsing to finish. A checkout validation script may fail even when the email field is plainly visible. Here the input has an ID of email, but the query uses email without a selector prefix. We run it now and see that no element was selected. Let's break down why this returns null. Query selector uses CSS selector syntax. So email means an element tag named email. Our target is an ID and an ID needs the hash prefix. Now we correct the selector to email. That tells query selector to match the input by its ID. Instead of looking for a custom HTML tag, we run the fixed version and print the value from the selected field. Now we are showing the quickest habit for reliable DOM selection. Validate the selector before wiring behavior to it. Use for IDs and for classes, then test the selector in browser DevTools. This catches a surprising number of broken form and button features. Next, we will fix two event handler mistakes that cause actions to run at the wrong time or fail to control browser behavior. The key is to be precise about what the browser passes to your callback. This bug often appears in login forms when a submit handler is supposed to prevent a page reload. The callback tries to call event top permit default, but it never receives an event parameter. We dispatch a cancelable submit event now and capture the reference error. Let's break down the missing piece. The event object contains details about the submit action and gives us prevent default. Nothing in this callback declares a variable named event, so JavaScript cannot resolve that name. Now we fix the handler by adding event as its parameter. The handler can safely call prevent default, and dispatch event returns false because the cancelable submit action was prevented. We run the corrected version and verify that result. Now we are showing the safest event handler style. Explicitly name the event parameter whenever you use it. It makes the handler clear, works consistently across environments, and makes prevent default easy to spot during review. Use this for submit, click, keyboard, and pointer handlers. Imagine rendering a product list and seeing an item delete itself before anyone clicks delete. The parentheses after delete item execute the function immediately, then its return value is passed to addEventListener. We run this setup code and see both the early deletion and the invalid listener error. Let's break down the difference. Delete item is a function reference that the browser can store and call later. Delete item with parentheses is a function call, so it runs now and leaves no valid callback for the click listener. Now we pass delete item without parentheses. The browser stores that function until the click event occurs. We dispatch a click after registration, and the terminal confirms that deletion happens at the correct time. Now we are showing the best pattern for event registration. Pass the function reference directly. Use an arrow function only when you need to supply extra arguments, such as delete item id, that preserves the delayed event-driven behavior your UI expects. The final bug appears when an interface renders new controls after the initial page load. Existing listeners do not automatically spread to elements that were created later. This is a common Toto list bug. Old remove buttons work, but a newly rendered item ignores clicks. We attach listeners to the buttons found during setup, then append one more Toto item. Now we click the new button and inspect how many items remain. Let's break down why the click did nothing. Query selector all gave us the remove buttons that existed at that exact moment, and we attached listeners only to those nodes. The new button was inserted afterwards, so it never received a listener. Now we fix the dynamic behavior with event delegation. Instead of listening on every button, the list listens once and checks whether the click target matches remove. We append the same item, run its bubbling click, and the new Toto is removed. Now we are showing the best pattern for repeated controls that can be added or replaced. Event delegation, put one listener on a stable parent, then filter events by the target selector. Use it for Toto lists, tables, menus, search results, and asynchronously loaded content. Next, let's look at a subtle form state mistake that can make a valid user input appear to be missing. In a real search UI, the input may sit inside a styled wrapper, and it is easy to keep a reference to the wrapper by mistake. Here we create a search box with a typed query, then log search box, bot value. Now let's run it and see what gets submitted. Let's break down that result. Search box points to a div, and a div does not store typed form data in a value property. The input is the element that owns the text, so the browser correctly gives us undefined here. Now let's fix the selector. We keep the wrapper for layout but query the input inside it before reading value. When we run this version, the submitted query matches what the user typed. Now, the best practice is to keep references to the exact control you need, because that makes form code predictable and easy to review. Use input, top tray, or select references for user values, and use wrappers only for structure and styling. Dynamic UI updates are useful, but replacing markup can quietly disconnect the behavior users depend on. Imagine a cart that re-renders after a quantity change. We attach a click listener to its checkout button, replace the cart HTML, and click the new button. Now we run the script, and the click counter tells us whether that replacement kept its behavior. Let's unpack the zero. Inner HTML did not update the old button in place. It removed it and created a new button object. The listener stayed on the removed object, so clicking the replacement has no effect. Now we'll fix this with event delegation. The listener lives on the cart, which survives the re-render, and it checks whether the clicked target is a checkout button. Run this version and the replacement button works immediately. Now, the best practice is to put listeners on stable elements when a region re-renders often, because the listener survives child replacement. For interactive lists, carts, and menus, delegation is usually simpler than reattaching every listener after each render. The next bug is about initialization. One button click can trigger several requests when setup code runs more than once. When a modal opens and closes repeatedly, setup code may run more than once. This example creates a new save handler every time setup modal runs, then clicks once. Now we run it and count how many requests that single click sends. Let's break down why this happens. Every arrow function created inside setup modal has a new identity, so add event listener keeps every one of them. The browser has no way to know that these handlers represent the same save action. Now let's make setup safe to call repeatedly. We move handle save outside the setup function, remove that stored listener first, and then add it once. Run this version and one click produces exactly one request. Now the best practice is to make initialization idempotent, meaning calling it again does not add duplicate behavior. Store reusable handlers when cleanup matters, especially for models, route changes, and components that mount more than once. Event handlers have their own context rules, and one small function choice can point this at the wrong object. A selectable card often needs to toggle its own active state after a click. Here the handler is an arrow function inside a controller, so this comes from the controller instead of the card. Now we click the card and inspect the runtime error. Let's break down the failure. Arrow functions do not receive a listener bound this value. They capture this from the surrounding code. In this case, that object is the controller, not the button, and it has no class list to toggle. Now let's fix the handler with event current target. This property always points to the element whose listener is currently running, so it is exactly the card we need. Run the corrected version and confirm that the active class was added. Now, the best practice is to use event current target when the handler needs its owning element, because the intent stays clear in any callback style. This is especially useful when you reuse handlers or use arrow functions for other reasons. Finally, let's protect the UI from older network responses that arrive after a newer user action. A product search can send one request for Java and another for JavaScript before the first response returns. In this demo, the shorter query is deliberately slower, but every response writes directly into the result area. Now we run both input events and see which result remains on screen. Let's break down the race. The JavaScript request finishes first and briefly renders the correct result, but the older JA request finishes later and overwrites it. Network timing is unpredictable, so the UI must decide which response is still allowed to update state. Now we'll fix the race with an incrementing request ID. Each input event receives a version number, and the response updates the UI only if its number still matches the latest request. Run it again, and the final result stays aligned with the newest query. Now, the best practice is to cancel superseded requests or guard every response with a current request ID, because only the newest user intent should change the UI. Use abort controller when the request supports cancellation, and use versioning when you need a lightweight response check. Now you know how to avoid some of the most frustrating JavaScript UI bugs. If this helped, like the video, subscribe to Dev Level Up, and tell me in the comments which JavaScript mistake you want us to break down next.